Hello, Forecaster here again, and we are back for episode 72. And I have mostly completed the reactor bunker, and there are just some more components that are missing that I'm going to have to create. But I'm still going to show you the bunker such as it is, and we'll find the reactor in here, and I have, as you can see, started making a bunch of coolant. The pipe system is in place. The control system is not yet in place. Oh dear. I brought this armor stand down with me, and I'm going to place this here, and we'll put the hazmat suit on it. Of course, for the future. Can explode this creeper. Not sure where he came from. This room is supposed to be mob free, so that's slightly weird. There's a spot here. I might need a light on the side as well then. Let's turn that off. Now, as you can see, the room now features some light fixtures embedded in the floor to protect them from an eventual explosion. The floor and walls are made out of reinforced stone. The ceiling is not, because I'm cheap. So the ceiling is just construction foam disguised as reinforced stone. And this wall is yet to be completed. I'll do that at some point. Now, in the room over on this side here, we have, behind the reinforced wall, we have the coolant processing system, which consists of a liquid heat exchanger and a Stirling generator. And the Stirling generator is connected to a power line, which a bit down here turns into these high voltage cables, which go along the floor here on the out underneath this wall, and then go across here, and then up in that second channel that is inside here. And it is not connected to the copper cable that comes down here. So the power for the lights and anything else that would be needed down here, which is nothing at the moment, is being provided from the power bank upstairs. And the power from the reactor will go into the power bank first. So the reactor is not powering the lights directly. I intend to use the reactor, as I've said, as a backup power source, at least for now. So the reactor, and the way I plan to do this is, and I believe this is correct, that when the Stirling generator can't output its power to anywhere, that is when the CSU at the other end of the power line by the boiler is full, its buffer will fill up. Once the buffer is full, this will stop accepting heat. And if I'm correct, the heat exchanger, when it cannot output heat, it will fill its internal buffer, which I assume it has. It might not have one. And then it will stop processing hot coolant. And it will fill up this tank here. And then it will stop accepting coolant from the tank. So my plan is to have a Railcraft gate on this pipe here and have it check for when this tank here is full. And when this tank is full, a signal will go back to the reactor and turn it off. So the reactor will stop and it will stop outputting hot coolant, and there will be some hot coolant in the pipe that will build up while that will have built up while this tank has filled up. But hopefully there will be enough of a buffer to keep the reactor from wasting heat when it can't output any coolant. Because I believe that if the reactor, say this pipe is full, so there is a fluid ejector upgrade in here, of course, so we'll auto output into this pipe, but when that pipe is full, the output tank will fill up, and once this output tank is full, it can't convert cold coolant into hot coolant anymore, because there's no room to output it. So instead, it will build up internal heat, which is of course bad, because too much internal heat will eventually lead to an explosion, which is why the reactor is down here in the first place. And so there are a lot of buffers. There's the pipe filling up with hot coolant, then we have this tank, and then the boilers, or the reactor. I was trying to avoid saying boiler, but I failed. And then the reactor's temperature itself. Now I'm not sure if... I don't think this temperature will go down if the reactor doesn't have anywhere to put the heat. So it will only output the heat into coolant. So it can't vent the heat out into the air or something like that. So hopefully there will be very little or no energy loss at all. But that's the plan. Now I also intend to have a shut-off system, which I didn't bring with me, consisting of nuclear controls, thermal monitor, which I've made one, and this will monitor the temperature of the reactor and turn it off should it exceed a certain threshold that I will specify once I've placed it on the reactor. And this should hopefully be enough to keep the reactor from overheating should it be kept running for a long period of time. Now I haven't quite decided if I want wanted to trigger a permanent shutoff that has to be manually disabled yet. I have made a toggle latch which would be used for this purpose. Should have the things in here. So here is the thermal monitor, and I've also made some signal boxes from Railcraft. I intend to use these as to transfer signals wirelessly. That's of course not what they're intended to be used for, but that is what I'm going to use them for in this particular case, because it's the only way, except computers, which are expensive, to transfer wireless signals. Now I am missing a few things still, but I intend to make those as soon as I can. Of course, we also have this advanced information panel. Now before I was using this, which is the basic information panel, you could say. And the advanced information panel is a bit more expensive to craft. Specifically, this one was kind of fiddly because of all the dice, and this one is kind of annoying as well because of the coolant cell. Costs a bunch of resources. This is fairly okay, just a basic machine casing. Now the difference between the basic and the advanced machine casing, or information panel, is if I put this here and then I put this here, we'll see that you can have a card in this, range upgrades, and I have no idea what the slot is for. If we look in this, we can see we can have 3 different cards in it. It has a bunch of settings here, and we have, of course, the 3 tabs for each of the cards, and this slot, which I don't know what it's for. And the main reason I want the advanced information panel is because of these settings here. And if we adjust these sliders here, you can see that we can change the shape of the block to look how we want. So for example, we could do have it look like that, and the information would of course be displayed on the front here, just like normal. So you can have this have a very low profile compared to this, which you can't change the shape of at all. You can also change the colors of this, which is what this interface is for. So for example, we can do that. So now the background is black, and any text on it, which is none at the moment, would of course be blue and now white. And then we have the power, the redstone signal interpretation, of course, and then an unused button. And the operation of this is exactly the same as the basic one. We need a remote sensor kit, and with a fluid-cooled reactor, you just right-click anywhere on the casing, and so for example I can click there, and I'll get a special card. You can see there are 2 versions, the reactor sensor location card and the 5x5 reactor sensor location card. And they both do the exact same thing, just one represents the a normal reactor and one is for the fluid-cooled reactor. So we put the card in here, and we get pretty much the same options as the normal panel. And you'll see it says out of range. Now I actually want this upstairs, and I'm going to need a bunch of range upgrades. Crap. Doesn't drop the card for some reason. That... I'm pretty sure that is a bug. So I'm going to spawn in a new card. Because you can take the card out. So let's put this here. And have it reshaped again, like so. Then turn it on, and you can see now it works because it's now in range. So to put this upstairs, I'm going to need a bunch of range upgrades. And then I probably want this basic one down here, which is why I brought it down here, to be able to see the reactor status when I'm down here. And of course, I didn't make one of these panel extenders for the other one, but they basically extend the screen area and allow you to display the data a little nicer, give you more space, and you can pretty much make these as big as you want. I think I don't know what the upper limit is. Now we'll also see that it displays slightly different data from an EU reactor. So we can see the input tank, how full it is, and the output tank, and of course the heat output, and instead of the EU output, and the core temperature. Now I don't know if it displays the running time. Doesn't actually look like it. Let's put on the... right. I need a lever on it to have it replace all of the pieces at once. Right, well anyway, let's put in the fuel and see if something happens. No. I wonder if there's a way to make it display the running time, because I would very much like that information, so I can see if it's out of fuel or not. I'm going to have to look into that. The thermal monitor, I'm pretty sure you can put it anywhere on the reactor, so we're just going to put it here. And the current temperature is of course 0. And I don't think it will actually output anything at 0 anyway. But with this we can set a maximum temperature, and we can have it output a redstone signal in this mode when the reactor exceeds this temperature, or if we click this, we will output a high signal until this temperature is reached, where it will output 0. But generally you'll probably want it on the default mode. So I intend to output this into a signal controller box. Now I can't link these because I don't have a signal tuner yet. I need to make one of those. And then we're going to have a signal receiver box on the redstone port, which I guess I can't put one on a pipe. It needs a solid block for support, so I'll probably have to move this, unless a cover or facade will do the job. I can put that on top of the pipe and then put the receiver on there. And the reason for this is since I'm going to have two shutoffs, I basically want an AND gate. So I'm going to have somewhere else, probably in the next room, I'm going to have a two receiver boxes. One is going to be connected to this, and the other one is going to be connected to the tank level controller on the heat exchanger. And then I'm going to have a controller box that is going to be linked to these like this, and this controller box is going to be linked to a receiver box that is going to be next to the redstone port. And the reason I want to do this is then I can have the receiver box here is going to require a green aspect to output a redstone signal, which is going to turn on the reactor. And because of the way the aspect system, the signaling system in Railcraft works, when either this signal box or the fluid level 1 receives a redstone signal, they're going to turn red and start sending red signals in here. And the red has a higher priority than green. So when either of these two inputs turn red, this is going to start outputting red, which is going to receive red here and turn off the signal that keeps the reactor running. So they'll work kind of like an AND gate. Wow, this is slow. But like I said, I need a few more components. I need another receiver and another controller, I think. I also need a signal tuner to be able to connect. Oh. You need a crowbar to break these, apparently. Didn't know that. Oh well. So I need 2 more receivers and 2 more controllers, I think. Now, a signal tuner, and I'll also want to make a pair of Trackman's goggles so that I can see the connections, because that makes it easier to work with those. I guess I'll leave those there for now, and I'll have to find a crowbar or make one if I don't have one. Now I had 2 liquid heat exchangers, so I put one here, but I'm not going to use this, partially because it doesn't have a Stirling generator on it, so it's kind of useless. Also doesn't have any heat conductors. And I'm pretty sure that this single one will do for the reactor layout I have planned, and the relatively low amount of usage the reactor is going to see because of its status as a backup. I can also put 2 more heat exchangers in here, of course, or heat conductors, to max out the heat transfer rate. And if I still manage to exceed the capacity of this, then I'll have to hook in this second one. You'll notice I have a clay pipe here. This is a clay fluid pipe, which acts as an insertion pipe for fluid. And what that means is that when the hot coolant comes here, it's always going to first try to go in this heat exchanger, and only if this is full will it go into this one. Now it's not connected obviously, but if this pipe was here, no fluid would go this way unless there's no more room in here. So it would ensure that this is maxed out before it would use this one. If you had, say, a gold pipe here, the flow would be random, so some of the fluid would go in here and some of it would go in here. And I like to control it this way. Then of course we have the output, which just feeds back into the boiler or the reactor. This is going to need a fluid ejector upgrade. I need to remember that. I made a new clipboard because I lost the old one when I died in lava that time, quite a while ago. Fluid ejector upgrade. To receivers and to controllers, and that should be what I need for now. I should have brought the item frame for this as well, I suppose. But I will have, I guess I'll take this back up with me. I have no inventories down here except the boiler, the reactor. Why do I keep saying boiler? Anyway, so I still have some things to craft. I think I have enough coolant, but I guess we'll see once the once we can turn on the reactor, because, well, come here. Because I don't really know yet. Actually, I will not use an item frame. I don't like item frames anymore. They're too random. I hate when things throw items out into the world. Mostly because of the stupid desync. It's the same thing with these rubber trees. When the resin comes out of the resin spots, it most of the time it doesn't go where it looks like it goes, or at least sometimes. So if you make some of it come out, and you lose track of it and have to go look for it. It's especially annoying when there's water nearby. I kind of wish it would just put it in your inventory when you do things like this. Because chasing flying items down is never fun. Did I pick that up? I think I picked it up. But yeah, that's the current status of the reactor construction. As you can see, I planted some more of these rubber trees because I needed a lot of rubber for components, mostly for the high voltage cables, because they require 3 pieces of rubber per block to insulate. And it doesn't work like before, where you would where you had in very old versions of industrial craft, you'd have different levels of insulation for some of the cables. Like gold had 2, I think, and insulated had 3. So if you crafted it with a single piece of rubber, you would get insulated high voltage cable with 1 layer of insulation. Then you craft it with 2 to get 2 layers of insulation, and finally 3, which is the current only version in the current build of industrial craft. I suppose they wanted to simplify it a little, and there really wasn't a lot of reasons to not use the maximum insulation level. Now, there's no power loss with the any of the cables, so there really is not a whole lot of reasons to use high voltage cables. This is where the cable comes up. It goes to about here, then goes down, because there is a copper cable here. It then goes at that lower level here somewhere. Then it goes turns here somewhere, and it comes up into this CSU here. If we break this, we'll see the cable right there. But I felt like using this anyway, and one of the reasons is its transferring capacity. I'm pretty sure that the capacity actually affects affects the power flow at the moment. So even if there's no loss if I were to use a copper cable, if I produce enough power, all of it won't be able to make it here as quickly if I use a lower tier cable. So that's mainly why I'm using a high voltage cable. Maybe it doesn't matter, but it feels kind of right to use a thick high voltage cable for the reactor output. So I'm going to go with that. It costs a bunch of iron to make high voltage cable and lots of rubber, but it feels worth it, even if it's not. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for now. So I'm going to end the episode here, and I will see you in the next one.